That's the importance of working with a team, because while you're taking a break, someone else is doing it for you and so on. So that's, and not only for social, for any career, honestly, but like for social specifically, you need that mental health break. It's a need at this point. It's a need. It's a full-time job.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the WIIM Podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jessie Grossman, and I'm the founder of this amazing organization. And today we have an interview episode for you guys. I know it's been a few weeks, so I hope you like the solo episodes, but I hope you like the interviews too. This week we have someone super interesting. Her name is Laura Godoy. She works at U.S. Bank, and she attended our Chicago meetup. So she's based in Chicago. And it was such a good discussion. We just finished it. So I'll tell you like a little bit about Laura before you meet her. So she has expertise in social media strategy and analytics in industries such as banking and food, beverage and beauty, and technology. She's crafted and implemented effective social media strategies that drive engagement and deliver results. And her passion lies in leveraging data-driven insights to optimize social media performance and enhance a brand's presence. She loves staying ahead of emerging trends and best practices. We all need someone like Laura. I feel like we have a ton of people on the show who talk about like straight up influencer and influencer marketing. And I wanted to get someone on the show to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes and the analysis of it all and the strategy that's informed by those analytics. So it's a really great, informative episode. We try to keep it fun and fresh, of course. And I look forward to hearing from Laura. A couple housekeeping things before we jump into the episode, though. We have so many events coming up that I always like to mention, a few of them at least on this show. First of all, if you just go to iamwim.com/events, you'll see we've got events scheduled till January. We're recording this in the beginning of August. So we have tons of stuff coming up, wanting to make sure that we have all of our T's crossed, our I's dotted for when I'm out on maternity leave. And so we have tons of events that are coming up, including ones about AI. We have events about freelancing and the creator economy. We have open conversations with the moms in the group. So from, fun and casual to like strictly business and all educational, we have tons of events that hopefully at least one, but hopefully a few will resonate with you and you'll join us. Those are just some of the virtual ones, though. We also have some really cool in-person ones that are coming up. Just this month, we have, like later this month, even from when you're listening, when this episode's released, if you are based in Austin or Austin, Texas, or if you're based in San Francisco, California, we have 2 in-person events. Come and meet us in person, meet my team, meet the rest of that local community and influencer marketing. Nothing beats in-person events, you guys. Love the podcast. I listen to podcasts all the time. I love going to podcast meetups because I just think it's such a fun night out. So we're doing a fun panel in San Francisco. We're going line dancing in Austin. We're making it a really good time. We have more cities, of course, being announced soon, including another one in Chicago, another one in New York, and different cities all over. I think Miami's planning one. I know I've been teasing Toronto for a bit, London for a bit. They're still in the works and they're happening soon. And if there's any cities in particular that you're like, come to my city, I'd love to have an influencer marketing group here and a chapter in my city, send us a DM on Instagram and let us know where we should be. Right now, we're in, I think, 10 or 12 different markets. And I don't know, are we missing any? Let us know. So I hope that you sign up for those. As always, members get either free or discounted tickets. And check out the membership too. This is something that I don't think enough people know about. So we have these info sessions every single month for those who recently joined the membership and want to know how to maximize their experience in it. But also those who are just curious about maybe you've listened to the podcast for a while and you're like, there's a membership. What is that membership about? So you're completely free. Obviously, it's just an info session that you join. And it's all of 20, 30 minutes live with me. We go over all the different components of the membership, how to maximize it and what you can get out of it. But also we give away a free month, which not everybody realizes that part. So that after, when you hear, the ways that you can enjoy the membership, you actually can enjoy the membership and not even have to pay for it for a whole month. So check out our website. Again, it's iamwim.com/events. For that last piece, look for the event called Get the Most from Your Membership. And that's our info session. You can come, learn about the membership, and also get a free month. It's like a cheat to win. All right, you guys, I'm very excited for you to listen to today's episode. Oh, and last thing, I promise, while I'm on maternity leave, I'm planning on having a lot of guest hosts of the podcast. So I'm speaking with a few friends. Most, if not all of them, have been guests on the show before. And we're planning on some really cool content towards the end of the year and the beginning of next year. So you can hear more voices, more perspectives, and get excited because we're going to have some guest hosts while I'm out. So this podcast will definitely not stop. In fact, we're experimenting and evolving it a little bit more. So I look forward to you listening to all of them. They're very specifically hand selected. They'll be fantastic. And you might even like them more than you like me, and that's okay. All right, guys, without further ado, this is Laura Godoy from U.S. Bank. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's iamwim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. So first of all, I'm just very excited to have you on the show representing like our Chicago community as well, our Venezuelan community as well, which you'll get into in a little bit too. But I'm just very excited to have you. So first and foremost, welcome to the show. And how are you?
Good. Thank you for the invite. I'm really excited.
We're excited to have you. I know that we're going to get into some really cool conversation today. I want to learn more about you, just start before we get into stuff. So maybe that's a good place to start. I would love for you to just tell our listeners like a little bit more about yourself, your journey into influencer, into working in social media, your journey into working in the role that you're at, and maybe even something we don't know about you. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, as I say, I'm excited to be here. So I'm Laura Godoy. I'm a social media measurement analyst at U.S. Bank. And pretty much what I do is track performance and results. You might be wondering, what does that mean? That involves everything from impressions, engagements, likes, comments, saves. I'm the one analyzing that data and giving brands recommendations of content or platform optimization. And with that, we can better target and connect with our audience. I've done social media management in the past as well. I've worked with Molds and Coors. I'm originally from Venezuela. I moved to the U.S. 6 years ago. And also my passion relies on finding social media trends that I can send to my team or to even content creators and influencers I work in the past, just to keep, the conversation going and to keep the brand up to date to what's going on across social, which changes on a daily basis. So you work on social, you have to be there, pretty active all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I have so much respect for people who like yourself, because I feel like that analysis component is so hugely important, but it takes such a special, a focus, a special, just knowing where to look, what to look for, all of these signals to be able to then inform, the brand that you work for, the clients that you have of what's the next step to take, or how do we improve, what we did before maybe. So I'm curious in terms of that, what have you been seeing lately in social? It's a broad question, of course, but are there any trends that you've been seeing perform particularly well, or I don't know, anything that you're seeing that you think that our audience should be aware of?
So because I'm in the financial industry, sometimes the opportunities are limited. However, a few months ago, I don't know if you're familiar with I'm Looking for a Man in Finance, Trust Fund, Blue Eyes. Those are like one specific like trends and moments on social, the financial trend, the financial companies can take advantage of. But also going back not so far ago, back in April with the solar eclipse, the U.S. Bank had this wonderful post on Instagram. It was just a time lapse of the eclipse from one of our branches. And you might be thinking like, okay, I'm a brand and I want to participate in what is part of the conversation, but also you don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need to promote a product or service all the time. Sometimes on social, you have to be fun and you have to be relevant to connect with our audience and also be authentic, because what's the point of like promoting your products or services on a daily basis or nothing else? I mean, or you also, as a brand, you don't talk about anything else. It's boring. Like when you go on social, you want to distract yourself from your day, from what you've done at work. And I see social particularly, that's my opinion, my view on it, as the new TV. So it's like sometimes you don't even watch a show. You can spend your full night on social, scrolling down on TikTok or on Instagram, and that's your entertainment, period. So if you're a brand, what makes you special? What's your goal? And what's your audience that you want to keep them engaged on and on all the time? You know, if that makes sense, you know what I'm trying to say? So with trends, as social media analysts, we're trying to spot trends before they happen, trying to be popular or up to date with what's happening, but also compare ourselves to what competitors do. And we don't have to come up with like crazy out of the box ideas all the time. Sometimes it's like, okay, let's see what others are doing and how can we make it better? How can we improve the content that's already out there and make it ours, give it our own twist, being unique, being original, connecting with the audience that is meant for the bank or for the brand that you're managing or analyzing.
And I can imagine, like, I happen to agree with you, and I just experienced that, which is like sometimes I'm watching TV and sometimes I could just have the TV off and like my entire entertainment is just on my phone, which I love. I think that's a pretty universal experience for the most part for most people these days. But I can assume that like it would be a challenge to, it's like of all the brands that, you know, you could work for and do social for, like some of them like are naturally fun and naturally entertainment based. Yes. And like you work in the financial sector, which I think like it would be exciting to me because I feel like it'd be like a cool challenge of like, all right, like how do we make this, you know, financial company, a bank, fun and entertaining? So like what attracted you to working in that industry in particular? And like, do you find that it's like challenge accepted?
Yes, at the beginning, well, I never pictured myself in the financial industry, to be honest. However, it was more of a challenge of like, okay, I can do this. Banks usually have a bigger following and also work with bigger sponsors. So it's more than being fun and entertaining. It's seeing things from a consumer perspective. It's not enough to be creative if you don't understand the data that's behind it. And there are multiple examples out there, not only U.S. Bank. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with SoFi or Chime, in which they can relate to the consumer from their own experiences. For example, bachelor party, you have XYZ amount of dollars in your account because you spend thousands on Amazon. Or planning for graduation or saving money for your dream vacation. So if you think like it's boring, but actually when you like working in, have the opportunity to brainstorm ideas with your team and also see things from the consumer perspective, you actually have multiple ideas, multiple ways of being creative and multiple ways of promoting a brand without being categorized as boring. It is different. I'm not going to say it's for everyone because like, especially if you're used to work with B2C brands, it is quite a change. But once you accept the challenge, like you mentioned, and also make the best out of the situation, you find yourself in a position in which like, okay, I actually have a ton of materials, a lot of things to work with. It's not like they make it seem.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Again, like I think it's really interesting to work for a sector where it's like just the like in yours, I can imagine there's so many stories to tell too. You know, you're talking about like preparing for life moments and like all sorts of stuff. So, you know, the entertainment factor doesn't need to always be so on the nose in terms of like, well, entertainment doesn't always need to be funny or like this big production. Like entertaining could be a really interesting story or like something that's like just actually very useful to know about. Like that's very entertaining for me, for lots of people. So I love that. And like in terms of strategy, because I think that like that's the next natural step from the analysis. It's like, okay, we've looked at this and we've analyzed it, and then that helps support a good strategy. What interesting social media strategies are you guys experimenting with these days?
Well, I'm limited in what I can share about U.S. Bank and what we do, like give you specific details. But overall, when it comes to social media strategy, when you have that background in data, when you've been tracking results over time, when you have benchmarks, you can really determine which pillars in your social media strategy are performing the best. And this is the important part of keeping your playbooks up to date, updating them at least once a year, because that will let you know which content is resonating the most with your audience. Do you need that extra pillar you added last year? Or do you need less pillars than the ones you're currently working with? Do you need to change the way you're narrating different stories on social? Maybe experimenting with new formats, maybe on Instagram, carousels are doing better than video or vice versa. Or maybe your audience is on Twitter or X, how is it called nowadays? But maybe on your audience on X, maybe they just don't want to see videos. Maybe just they want to read threads. And those are the few little data points, key insights that a brand has to be really focused on before making big changes to the strategy. And if you don't know your audience, if you don't know your goal as a brand, if you don't know what content performs the best, if you don't know your audience preferred format or even content, then as a brand, you're wasting resources and money and time.
And are there any specific tools that you personally recommend that you're like, or just like ways to look at the data? I can just imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like there's a fair amount of like experimentation that just like naturally has to occur for you to just figure out like what is the best, platform for us, or what is, where your audience is, what types of content work. But is it a lot of like manual analysis? Are you guys using tools? Like, what helps you the most?
I will say it's a little bit of both, because before getting into social media analytics, I was that person that was scared of numbers and math in general. That's why I decided to do social media. But Excel, it's always your best friend if you want to do it. Like, let's say if you want to analyze data manually. But there are other tools like Sprout Social, Quartz, Hootsuite, Sprinkler, in which brands can set out dashboards and track and analyze different platforms. It works very well for organic and pay. I would say are more specialized in organic content, which is one of the main reasons why the strategy is so important. Like if you don't know how organic content performs, then literally and pretty much you're going to waste your money when doing boosted or pay if you don't know your audience. Those are just facts.
Totally. And I don't know, do you have a philosophy in terms of the right balance or how to handle the fact that with organic content, there's a human side of social media, I think that's very important, but also you're seeing certain things that if infused into that organic content would just make it perform well. So I don't know, it's just a very subtle, nuanced, I would say more nuanced, communication style. Like if you're working with influencers, for example, and again, they want to add their flair, but your data points are telling you maybe something different. Is there a balance there, or how should they take that into consideration and have those types of conversations?
So nothing's perfect, right? With organic social, you also have to be realistic that you're not going to get thousands of likes and views and impressions. That's just how it works and how the algorithm across different platforms is going to help you. But also when hiring or working with influencers, you got to make sure their audience is aligned with yours. Because otherwise, again, as I mentioned, you're wasting resources. That's the problem. I mean, you could see it with like big influencer and small content creators. Sometimes brands might see better result with small content creators because, again, their audience is resonating with their content. I don't know if you've seen it before, but I've come across influencers with millions of followers on Instagram. And when you look at their likes or comments, it's like 300 likes or 11 comments. Makes you wonder, are these people buying followers? Are these people buying engagements? Like, what's happening right now? Because I used to be the point of reference. Oh, if you had a lot of followers, then you must be a good person to hire. Not necessarily. And the same happens with organic social. You don't need to have thousands of likes or thousands of comments and engagements if you are targeting the right audience. If you're targeting the right audience, then the possibilities of turning those potential followers into clients and customers is going to be higher compared to brands that have millions but are not connecting with anyone.
Quick question for you guys. How much do you love redlining agreements? Yeah, me too. Let me tell you about our latest sponsor called Caveat. So Caveat with K is an AI-powered contracting platform that simplifies and automates your contracts. It'll hugely improve the way that you review partnership agreements. So if you're a media company or an entertainment company or a management firm, it's a must-have tool. Look, sometimes you do need to hire a lawyer, an expensive lawyer nonetheless, to work on an agreement because it's over a certain threshold, and a good lawyer can be invaluable. But what about all those other partnerships, those other contracts that are for $5,000 or even like $1,000? That's where Caveat comes in to support you and your team through AI to process your contracts to gain a competitive edge through data-driven insights and automatic AI-driven deadlines. It's game-changing tech, and it's founded by 3 brilliant women. So you know why I'm out here supporting it. Get time back in your day because Caveat will help you with the part of your business that may be your least favorite. So head to our website. It's iamwim.com/caveat for a completely free trial. That's iamwim.com/KAVEAT. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. So for anyone listening who's like, that sounds like such a fascinating job that Laura has, like, I would like to get into, that side of the business because there's so many different sides of the creator economy and social media that people aren't even necessarily thinking about or aware of. Like, what would you say are some of the best parts of your job? Because I also heard you say, like, I am in this, but I wasn't necessarily a numbers person before. So what are some of the best parts and maybe some of the misconceptions about like the type of role that you're in?
So first of all, you really have to like the job because I'm on social media all day, all time. And it doesn't become, it's not a burden to me to spend my day scrolling down on TikTok, on Instagram, and then seeing ideas and think like, hey, actually, this can work for our channel. Actually, I'm going to send this an idea. I really like this filter. I really like this audio. I think we can use it. It has potential. But also be open. And as a professional, I think that you always have to be open to learn about new things, a little bit of everything, which is what brought me here. I started as a social media management, community management, replying to comments, engaging with people, which can be quite interesting on social, to be honest. But then I was interested in social listening. Like, hey, I actually want to know what are people saying about specific topics on social and why. And with one thing brought me to the other. Social listening to social analytics to social strategy, which is what I want to do and keep doing. Because there's so many aspects of social media. Some people might say, oh, it's not a real job. It's like, have you done it before? Have you done it before? Do you know how much takes to just put a social media strategy together and to post on all these channels. Like you might think it's just a post. It's not just a post. It has a lot of work and people we
There's so much. I mean, and there's so much behind it. And like, absolutely. And a lot of people listening, at least, like, we're on your side, So like, totally know that. And like, but is there any particular qualities that a person would have or interests, like professional interests that you think a person would have that would make them more inclined to be successful in a role like yours? Like, if somebody, is maybe like just out of college and I want to be in this industry, trying to figure out which side of the industry to be on, if you're into this, obviously you said if you're into social, if you sort of have this quality, you should really look into this type of a role.
Well, if you are into data analytics, obviously it's a fit. It's not your typical role related to data analytics, again, because it's connected to social. If you're into marketing and have a passion for numbers, I didn't know. I discovered that on the way. As I said, like, I'm always open to experiment with new things. This might be a role for you. If you're into analyzing or social media strategy, I think it's important for you to get familiar with the whole engagement, for the whole rate process. So not only analyzing impressions and engagements, but as a social media analyst, you also are part of engagement rate, click-through rate, view-through rate, just to have an idea of how many people click on it or view the video or engage with a particular post. I personally went to school. I got my master's degree in digital media and communication. Again, wasn't like planning to be in social media analytics, but it depends of what you like. If you're into your social media strategy, definitely going through social analytics, it's a vital step before even recommending strategies if you don't understand the data. Data also looks different. As I say, it's not your typical digital analytics role, but also with social listening, you learn how to create queries, which looks like coding. And it's simple. It's nothing like that complicated. It's pretty much just divisions all the time. It's like, if you want to know how to calculate engagement rate, is total engagements divided by total impressions, and that's it. You get your rate. It's nothing that complicated. It's not like you have to learn how to do this complicated or specialized formulas. Like, again, there are multiple programs out there that can do it for you. And as long as you're open, this is the role for you.
So you don't have to be intimidated. Like, I feel like, and maybe that's a misconception because people assume it's like all data, all numbers. And like, if they are not necessarily amazing in that area, that it's going to be like a foreign language and they're just not going to be able to, understand it or whatever. So I'm curious, like, I'm assuming at, U.S. Bank and other companies that you've worked with, you've experienced this too, like teams need to speak with each other. And the more that they can really communicate well with each other and utilize each other, the better their respective departments can be. So, while you're, analyzing the social media on a content, then that could inform an influencer team or, another related marketing team like in the company. But I find that, again, whether it's like that it's just like, oh, that isn't my department. I don't even know the questions to ask, or people don't even know necessarily how to approach it. So I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to related teams at a company who are looking to communicate better with the analytics folks, and what questions are they not asking, or what questions should they be asking you?
I think it's more about what question they should be asking me or the people in analytics in general. Because what I've seen across multiple teams, and this is just not at U.S. Bank, this also happened at other companies I work at, is that leadership, or as I say, other teams, don't know how social works. They just don't know how social works. They don't get it. And again, they have this perception of social being a place for news or things that are not related to the brand, or informal brands that might not be even related to what they do. So if they want to know more about a specific topic or specific themes, that's how social media listening works and helps in those type of scenarios. So for example, let's say I'm with U.S. Bank and someone wants to know about credit cards. Then that's how social listening and my team will help them understand, actually, this is what people are saying about credit cards. This is the sentiment. Is it positive? Is it negative? These are like the top competitors. This is how they're speaking about it on Instagram, on Facebook. This is what's negative, what's positive, what's neutral. And then once you understand that conversation, you can take that info and make business decisions.
And along those lines, because I love that, it's perfect like segue, because I feel like we have a lot of influencer marketers that are listening to the show, but we also get some creators. And I always am wanting to emphasize with creators, like, you are your own business, like you are your own brand, and you need to, the more that you treat it as such, the more successful you're going to be. And so, you know, whether it's entrepreneur, founder who's an influencer, or just like a smaller brand, perhaps they don't have the same resources that the larger brands have, where they can have an analytics team and an influencer team and a social media team and things like that. So I don't know, are there any like basic, like, are there any recommendations of like, you know, just starting out, like basic things that they should look at or consider to amplify the work, the great work that they're doing?
Yeah, so actually you can do social listening for free, and that's something multiple social media platforms allow. So for example, if you want to know or do a research on podcasts for influencers, you can literally write down podcasts and in capital and influencers, and it will give you all the results that are posted on that social platform. And that will give, I mean, it's not as specialized as these companies. Obviously, they have other resources and these tools are expensive, but it will give you an idea of what the conversation is with all those posts, including those keywords. It's like using keywords to find a specific results, things, and topics related to your brand and to whatever you do. More than that, again, as I said, it's being on social all day. So if you're gonna work on this, if you're a content creator, like you gotta breathe, sleep, eat social media. You gotta know what's trending out there. I know it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job to create content, to edit videos. Like, it's a whole process. But like, if you don't know what's trending on social, if you don't know what your competitors are doing, because as a brand, you have competitors. If you don't know what they're doing, if you don't know what the trending topics are, if you don't know what the conversation is, because even if it's not related to your brand, right now with the high political environment that we're going through, you also have to be mindful of what content you're going to post. Are you being insensitive? Like, you have to take advantage of these resources, not only by researching it yourself, but also using these keywords in the search bars across social media platform to protect your reputation. Because at the end of the day, it's your reputation. And we've seen this multiple times, not only at U.S. Bank, at the company I used to work before. For example, I was with Molds and Pores, and the deal on Mulvaney, but like affected also the accounts of Coors Light and Miller Lite. We were getting like negative comments because we wanted. No, obviously not. But because that was part of the conversation back then. And we had to be prepared from a reputation standpoint to know what to say if, you know, that was the plan. Because sometimes it's just better to stay quiet and just wait for it to happen.
But to know what's happening and when it's a choice, that's the operative thing, right? And I guess like one of my last questions for you, and I know that most people, if not all people listening to this can definitely relate, is like when your job is so like intense that you said you have to live, breathe the social media, you have to love it and be on it all the time. There are obviously, because we're all human, there's going to be moments when you're like, it's a little much, or, you know, it's a lot at once and I just need a break. And, you know, is it going to get to the point where you're, I don't know, like, oh, like it's too much. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, but Like people, you're just burnt out basically because it's just so much of it all at the same time or all the time. Do you have any advice for people who just, want to make sure that things are balanced and want to make sure that they don't burn out? Because you could love something so much, but still doing it 24/7 is overwhelming. How do you balance it and make sure that you don't burn out?
I definitely been there, and I call it like my mental health breaks. Being on social, again, every day can be exhausting, not only because it's part of your job, also because you're doing it outside of your job. Just to be honest, I also like find myself looped into scrolling down and being obsessed or maybe addicted, call it, with social media sometimes. But just take it easy. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has it figured out. These brands have a whole team behind their social media accounts or social media posts. It's gonna be perfectly fine if you go out there for a walk, if you, do yoga, exercise, take a break just to enjoy yourself, spend time with friends. That's necessary to be successful. At this type of job, as I said, right now, we have a lot of political conversation going on. It's just exhausting to keep reading over and over again with what's happening. If you take a break for 2 or 3 hours, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna go back on social and nothing's gonna change unless there are cases. I want to say it's all the time, but that's the importance of working with a team. Because while you're taking a break, someone else is doing it for you and so on. So and not only for social, for any career, honestly, but for social specifically, you need that mental health break. It's a need at this point. It's a need. It's a full-time job. Even if you're a content creator, take a break, please. The war is not going to stop. If your audience engage with you, if you know your goal, if you know what you want to do with your social media platforms, then relax. It's very fine.
Absolutely. And honestly, taking a break from it usually makes it all the better when you come back to it. So breaks are necessary. Vacations are necessary. It clears your mind. It gives you a fresh perspective, whatever it is. And I think I can imagine doctors get overwhelmed and burnt out too. But I think the difference with, working with social media is it can be your job, but it could also just be your pastime. And so it becomes maybe I'm on a different account. Some people have different accounts. I've seen that too, where they're I have my work account where I am looking for people specifically for my brand, but then I have my personal account where my algorithm is super different and it's relaxing stuff. It's just a very different feed. But I think that that's the trap, right? Is that it's work, but it can also be, your downtime, pleasurable, off time stuff too. So I think it's just important, like you said, just to be mindful of it, to hopefully get ahead of it, to say I'm going to be taking my vacation. I'm going to be having, colleagues that I can rely on for different things. And you guys work as a team, because there's so many instances of burnout. And I just don't want to see people go through that. If this is something that they genuinely enjoy, there's a way to get ahead of it. I have a feeling that a lot of our audience would just love to get in touch with you and ask you more questions and just get to know you more. So how can our audience find you? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
So you guys can find me on LinkedIn, Laura Godoy, or Instagram, Laura P. Godoy F.
Amazing. So we will link all of that in the show notes for this episode. Laura, it's been awesome having you on. I really appreciate your conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I loved it. And for all of you guys who are listening, we will see you next week. Thanks, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at IamWIIM.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we can ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.